October 1347. The port of Messina, Sicily. A Genoese merchant vessel sailed into the harbor, but the men who came ashore were not the lively traders the port expected. Sailors lay collapsed across the deck. Black blotches covered their bodies. Their lymph nodes had swollen to grotesque size. A foul stench hung over the ship. A harbor official cried out, "Turn the ships away, now." But it was already too late. The plague had already made landfall. In that moment, no one knew. No one knew that this plague, pouring through Messina and ports across the Mediterranean, would change the course of European history forever. The Black Death. Its cause, the bacterium Yersinia pestis. Recent ancient DNA research has traced the origins of this bacterium to Central Asia, near what is now Kyrgyzstan. A 2022 study confirmed the direct ancestor of the Black Death plague strain in DNA, extracted from skeletal remains dated 1338 to 1339, unearthed from cemeteries at the northern foot of the Tian Shan Mountains. From there, it traveled the trade routes of Eurasia, through Crimea, and into the Mediterranean. Carried by parasites like fleas, the bacterium entered the body through bites, eventually multiplying in the lymphatic system and forming swellings known as buboes. The first symptom was fever. Then the lymph nodes, in the armpits, the groin, the neck, swelled to the size of eggs. These were the buboes. Then came the black blotches, spreading across the skin. Necrosis from subcutaneous bleeding. It is believed these black marks gave the disease its name, though the origins of the term itself remain debated by historians. The incubation period varied by form and circumstance, but once symptoms appeared, the disease often progressed with terrifying speed. With no treatment available, mortality was devastating, in some forms approaching 100%. The plague leapt from port to port. Genoa, Pisa, Florence, Venice. One by one, Italy's great cities were consumed. In Florence and other urban centers, death rates were catastrophic. Estimates often speak of roughly half the population, though the figures carry a wide margin of uncertainty. The writer, Giovanni Boccaccio, recorded what he witnessed. Parents abandoned their children. Children abandoned their parents. Even physicians fled from the sick. The bonds of humanity crumbled before the face of terror. But the Black Death did not slow. Moving with people and goods, along shipping lanes, trade routes, and pilgrimage roads, the plague crossed the Alps. In some circumstances, pneumonic plague spread directly from person to person, and its speed was staggering. 1348. The Black Death crossed the Alps. Into France, Spain, England, north, west, east. The plague moved with humanity. Merchants carried it, soldiers carried it, pilgrims carried it. No one at the time understood how, and so no one could stop it. When it reached England, the people prayed. They gathered in their churches, crying out to God for salvation. But mass gatherings could increase the opportunity for infection. Trade, living conditions, and a web of other factors combined, and the plague spread further still. For some, faith itself may have shortened their lives. History's cruelest irony. People could not understand why this was happening. Physicians were powerless. Medicine of the age explained the cause through frameworks like miasma, the theory of foul air, among others. Physicians burned aromatic herbs and sprinkled rosewater. Some cities attempted quarantine measures and movement restrictions, but every effort proved woefully insufficient. Theologians declared it the wrath of God, divine punishment for the sins of mankind. And so, across Europe, the flagellant movement emerged. They moved in processions from town to town, publicly flogging their own backs before crowds. Forgive us our sins. Stop this plague. Yet the flagellants became carriers of the very disease they sought to end. By traveling from town to town, they helped spread the Black Death further. Faith became a vector for pestilence. The tragedy of this age is that every choice seemed to make things worse. Fear turned to hatred. Why has this plague come upon us? Someone must be responsible. Someone must have done something terrible. The human mind searched for a scapegoat. Across Europe, a rumor spread. The Jews poisoned the wells. They brought this plague upon us. There was no evidence. It was an absolute lie. But people devastated by the plague believed it, and massacres of Jewish communities began. Strasbourg, Basel, Cologne. Across Germany and France, Jewish people were burned alive. Countless Jewish communities were destroyed. The scale of the atrocities varies across research estimates, but historians are united on one point: the persecution was vast, and it was widespread. History presents a brutal truth. The plague killed the body, but fear killed the soul. 1349. The Black Death reached Scandinavia. The people of the north had believed they were safely distant from the plague of the south. Then an English merchant ship, laden with wool, entered the harbor at Bergen. Every crew member was dead. That was enough. Some research suggests Norway lost more than half its population to the plague. Entire villages vanished. According to one account, a village priest continued performing last rites for his congregation until at the end there was no one left to perform them for him. In that moment, the people of Europe finally understood. There was no escape. God was not answering. Medicine was helpless. What, then, were they supposed to do? Most could not find an answer. 1353. After 6 years of fury, the Black Death's first wave finally began to recede. The price it had extracted was beyond imagining. Europe's total population plummeted from an estimated 75 million to somewhere between 40 and 50 million. The death toll, drawn from historical sources and population modeling, carries a wide margin, but mortality is estimated at 40 to 60%. In other words, nearly half of every living person on the continent died within 6 years. Entire villages were erased. Farmland lay in ruin. Commerce ground to a halt. Cities ceased to function. Records tell us that in Paris, the dead could not be processed fast enough. Bodies were cast into the Seine. In London, thousands of corpses lay abandoned in the streets. The people of that age believed the world was ending, that the last judgment foretold in Scripture had arrived. But the world did not end. History continued, and what followed brought the Middle Ages to their close. But the world the survivors inherited had been utterly transformed. Think about what it means. When a population is cut in half, what happens? The labor force collapsed. Peasants became scarce. Once, peasants had been the property of lords. Under serfdom, they were bound to the land, with no freedom to leave, no freedom to choose. But now, lords were desperate. There was no one to till the fields, no one to bring in the harvest. If you will work this land, I will pay you wages. In the decades following the Black Death, nominal and real wages rose sharply in England and parts of Western Europe. The rate of increase varied by region and period, but the dynamics were unmistakably different from anything that had come before. For the first time, serfs had leverage. Pay me more, or I will go to another lord. This shift in economic power shook the foundations of feudalism. Across Western Europe, a system of serfdom that had endured for centuries began to crack. The force that triggered it was not a revolutionary, not a philosopher. It was a flea. The church, too, did not emerge unscathed. Bishops died. Monks died. Parish priests died. Those who served God had rushed most eagerly to the bedsides of the sick and died most often as a result. If God will not even save his own servants, why? This question shook the foundations of medieval faith. The church had taught, "Pray, and you shall be saved." But those who prayed fervently and those who never prayed at all, they died the same. The authority of the church was quietly, irrevocably damaged. And out of this devastation, a new art was born. The danse macabre, the dance of death. Skeletons taking kings, nobles, peasants, and merchants alike by the hand, leading them into the dance. It carried a fierce message. Before death, all people are equal. King and serf stand the same before the skeleton. This message was a challenge to the medieval order of hierarchy itself. The Black Death had not only destroyed. In the minds of those who survived, something had begun to change. Faith alone cannot save humanity. Then humanity itself must act. This shift in thinking sowed the seeds of the Renaissance. The medieval worldview had been this: Humanity exists to serve God. All things unfold according to His will. But after the Black Death, a new question was born. If God determines everything, why does such senseless suffering exist? Can human beings not do something for themselves? A philosophy that placed humanity at the center, humanism, began to take root. The study of the human body began. The knowledge of ancient Rome and Greece was rediscovered. Boccaccio had witnessed the full horror of the Black Death, and still, he wrote the Decameron. A collection of stories celebrating human joy, love, laughter, and wisdom. This fierce will to live, this was the spirit of the Renaissance. And the Renaissance brought the Middle Ages to an end. Humanity learned from the Black Death. In 1377, Ragusa on the eastern Adriatic coast, modern-day Dubrovnik in Croatia, institutionalized a mandatory waiting period for arrivals from plague-affected regions. This is considered the world's first formal quarantine system. Later, port cities like Venice built upon this model, developing systems to hold arriving persons and ships for a set period before entry was permitted. The term quarantine, linked to the concept of 40 days, took hold and has remained in use to this day. Most people do not realize that the word quarantine was born from the Black Death of the 14th century. But the plague did not end. 1361, 1369, 1374. It struck Europe again and again. In the Great Plague of London in 1665, official records alone account for roughly 70,000 deaths, and the true toll is believed to have exceeded 100,000. Large-scale outbreaks in Europe did not subside until the early modern period, and plague itself has never been eradicated. Even today, sporadic cases are confirmed in certain parts of the world. What, then, can we learn from this story? The Black Death was not merely a plague. It was a catalyst, one that remade medieval Europe from its very foundations. Serfdom collapsed across Western Europe. The authority of the Church was shaken. Humanism took root. The concept of quarantine was born. Tens of millions died in 6 years. Yet those deaths ended feudalism. Those deaths gave birth to the Renaissance. Those deaths opened the road to modern Europe. Historians have said, without the Black Death, the Middle Ages might have endured another 200 years. Crisis transforms the structure of society. Plague transforms the ideas of humanity. Suffering always destroys something. But sometimes, upon those ruins, a new civilization is built. And now, I put this to you. History only speaks of outcomes, but those who lived it had no knowledge of what would come. The people who faced the plague at the port of Messina in 1347 did not know they were witnessing the birth of a new civilization. They only feared, they only prayed, they fled, and they died. If you had lived in that age, what could you have done? And there is one more question. Humanity has learned something from every plague it has endured, but have we ever truly passed that knowledge on to the next generation? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for witnessing this moment in history with me. What the Black Death demands, we ask ourselves. It is the question of what it means to be human, what it means to have a civilization. Here on Turning Point History, we stand at the hinge points of the past, and we tell the story of every figure who shaped it, heroes and the defeated alike, as nothing more and nothing less than human beings. Subscribe and turn on notifications, so you're there for every moment history turns. See you in the next one.